what is your message to the people who are voting in the runoff? Why are you the better Democrat to go up against Senator Cornyn in November?
You know, I spent the first year of this campaign before COVID driving tens of thousands of miles across the state. And I really was able to connect with folks because I think that a lot of people feel like we need people in DC who understand better the actual experiences of regular working Texans. We have people in DC charged with legislating solutions to the challenges that we face every day. And a lot of those people have either never faced those challenges or it's been decades since they faced those challenges. We need more people in office with my kind of experience. I spent 12 years in the military, 5 years working in healthcare. I have an executive MBA from the University of Texas. And when I went to DC, there were a lot of intimidating forces and special interests that tried to stop me from being able to make our country stronger and our military stronger by opening jobs for women. And I was able to overcome all of that as a private citizen. I was able to build a broad bipartisan coalition of support for opening those jobs. And I think that we need to start electing people that can do that, that can put the mission first and actually get things done.
You have the support and backing of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. And my question to you is, if you are elected and you're on you feel differently about an issue than perhaps the majority leader, if he is the majority leader, or even if he's still the minority leader, the leader of the Senate for your party, how will you be able to prove and convince Texans that you would be able to stand up whoever that leader is and vote the way you believe is the best way for Texans?
You know, I think that there's too often people who are running for office make promises. And I think that I would really rather show people what I've done in the past. I do think that by looking at your actions in the past, that's a better way to predict future, accomplishments. And when I was in the military, I became a combat pilot. That was one of the more difficult things to do in a system that is largely a predominantly male career field. I then went on to sue the Secretary of Defense to open up 238,000 jobs for women, and that essentially ended my military career. And then, when Jeff Sessions and others insinuated that they were going to legislate that ban back in place and close those jobs again, I went to DC as a private citizen and took him on, and again took on the special interests and the powerful people, and was able to succeed there too. So I have a history of being not just a disruptor, not someone who's going to, just go and try to tear things down, but actually taking on systems that are not working for people and being able to be effective at getting the needed change. I've been a stalwart, proponent for getting corruption out, getting money out of politics to the greatest extent that we can, especially corporate money. That's why I've been endorsed by End Citizens United. So all I can tell you is that I've always been a fighter. I'm not afraid to go against the grain. I put the good of my community first instead of my own self-interest. And I've been an effective fighter for my values.
During the debate, you accused State Senator Royce West of, quote, legislating in his own best interest, unquote, and said he became a millionaire in office. Are you saying he broke the law?
No, I think that for too long, the people who are writing the laws are benefiting from how those laws are written. That's what I'm talking about. And that's not limited to to individuals. It's not limited to parties. You see that happen with a lot of career politicians. You see people who oversee, entities, public entities that then get those contracts awarded in no bid situations. You see politicians standing up and not voting for ethical reforms that would protect taxpayers and protect the best interests of Texans. And for me, nobody gets a pass on that. For me, I'm going to call out anything that I think is career politicians looking out for their own self-interest instead of people like me and regular working Texans. Because when we elect people, we expect them to go and represent us and legislate in our best interest and focus on getting people access to health care, focus on getting comprehensive immigration reform that's more in line with American values like opportunity and freedom. I don't expect those people to go and vote against things that would, things like trying to get members of Congress to not be able to trade individual stocks. That's something that I support. So I'm just absolutely committed to the actions that we need to take in education, for climate change, for healthcare reform. All of those things can't happen until we can vote out people who are putting their own self-interest ahead of the interest of their constituents.
Do you think that Senator West is disqualified from being a candidate because of that?
No, I don't think anybody's disqualified from being a candidate. It's one of the beautiful things about our country and our democracy. I'd like to take that opportunity to say, anybody suffering from imposter syndrome thinking that they shouldn't run for office, please step up and run for office. Nothing disqualifies you if you are the kind of person who has real world experiences with the challenges that we face and you'd like to see a difference. I would like to encourage you to run for office.
As you know, Royce West has criticized you for not being a lifelong Democrat like he has been. And yesterday he sent out a release showing a Tea Party supported flag, the Gadsden flag that Tea Party members have shown in the past. And I guess you had shown it back in 2015. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, if you look closer at the date, I actually shared it on July 3rd because the Gadsden flag has been adopted by different groups, but the Gadsden flag to members of the military represent the first military flag flown during the American Revolution. And it was created in 1775. It has always stood for independence and for, our Revolutionary War. To members of the military, it was the first military flag. And I shared it on July 3rd as a July 4th weekend celebration of the victory during the American Revolution. And this really highlights a problem in politics. It's, candidates and politicians in their own self-interest trying to mislead voters. It's what turns people off from politics. They'd really rather hear candidates talk about how we're going to help them keep food on the table, help them keep a roof over their head without having to work 3 jobs and missing, their kids growing up. They'd rather hear us talking about our vision for the state than taking cheap shots at each other and trying to mislead voters. So I'm focused on protecting Social Security, on getting kids out of cages, on getting the needed healthcare reform, and I'll let other candidates focus on whatever they want to focus on.
What would you be fighting for as it relates to the response to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, I think that we need to understand that the public health and the economic pieces of this are intertwined because when we have the public health epidemic or pandemic out of control, it's obviously impacting our economy. I'm looking to support leaders to get elected in November to be in place to both handle the public health aspect, which all we're talking about is closing and masks. I don't hear any talk, or certainly not enough, about testing and contact tracing. And until we have widespread access to testing and we have leaders who are going to listen to scientists and healthcare workers and data instead of politicizing our public health and making decisions based on their reelection or what their party leaders are telling them, we're not going to get the public health aspect of this under control. I worked in healthcare for 5 years. I'm alarmed at how few elected leaders are listening to healthcare workers and nurses. That's rule number 1 in healthcare, is you listen to nurses if you want to be successful. And then the economic piece of this, if we have leaders in place like John Cornyn, the economy will only recover for the very powerful, and the stock market will be the only harbinger of how the economy is doing. The stock market's important for people's retirement funds and things like that, but I want to make sure that the economy recovers in a way that is good for the backbone of our economy and our country, which is the working class and the middle class. If we want a strong economy, we need to have people who can be at work and can earn money that then gets taxed, and then that money can be spent. That's the key to a strong economy, not just listen to the strong special interests.
If you were in the Senate already, what would you be fighting for with regards to police reforms?
So I think that there's already a lot of really great things out there for policing reform, a lot of good bipartisan legislation that's being proposed. I want to make sure that we are looking beyond police reform. I mean, I have, for years been saying that I think that we need to do things like end private prisons and for-profit policing practices, make sure that police are more representative of the communities and they live in the communities that they are charged with policing. Ending chokeholds, all of those things are great, but we need to go beyond that. And we need to go even further beyond just criminal justice reform too. And make sure that we understand that the systemic racism problem that we have in this country is apparent in our economy, in access to housing, in access to small business capital, healthcare inequities. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But the good news is that when you have people in office who are only answerable to their constituents and not to their party bosses or corporate leaders or corporate donors, or just thinking about reelection, I'd kind of like to see term limits and things like that, so that people who are representing are actually working for constituents instead of focused on getting reelected in their own self-interest. We just need to collaborate on actual pragmatic solutions, and make sure that we can ensure that our amazing country is able to live up to its potential and be the bastion of opportunity and hope and democracy that makes us the leaders of the free world around the globe.
MJ Hegar, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.